Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Hamel, and I am the president-elect of North Carolina Music Educators Association. Thank you for coming on this Saturday, and welcome to Help! School Starts Monday. We have devised a great panel of experienced music educators who are going to come in and they're going to talk about things that and they're going to share with you nuggets that all music educators should know when going into the classroom. Now, are there more nuggets? I'm sure there will be, but this is just a basic. Let's get started. Let's get these kids in. Let's get these kids playing, singing, and participating in music. Because to be honest with you, if you are a student teacher or if you student taught in the past year or two, a lot of us have not really been in front of a classroom face to face. And, you know, I know even as a 17-year experienced vet, there are sometimes I need a little bit of experience and I need a little bit of a refresher, if you want to call it that. And this panel is going to be great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Yoder.
Good morning. I am Dee Yoder. I know Jasmine is laughing at me because I have myself muted and I start talking. But I'm Dee Yoder. I teach in Burke County Public Schools. I currently teach at 2 schools with a very unusual schedule. And I've taught for 25 years. I am the immediate past chair for the elementary section. And it's nice to be here and see new faces. So I say to the next one, have fun.
Thank you. Eugene.
Good morning, Mr. Hamel and everyone. My name is Gene Mabry. I am the band director of Southeast Middle School in Kernersville, North Carolina, and I am in my 25th year as an educator in North Carolina. And happy to be here. Hope I can help out with the webinar and share some good info.
Thank you. Jolie Brooks.
Good morning. My name is Jolie Brooks, and I am an orchestra specialist. I have taught, just retired after teaching for 35 years. I've taught orchestra 4, 12, and general music and chorus K7. At the high school level, I've also taught music appreciation and AP music theory and IB music. And I also have a degree in school administration, and my perspective is a little different than some folks sometimes because I tend to try to look at things from the principal's point of view also. But I'm glad to see all of you here. Special hello to Solange, who I met earlier this year, who interviewed in our county, and congratulations on your gig there in Guilford County. And just I hope anything I say might be helpful.
Honestly, that's part of the reason why I came.
That's so awesome. That's building those relationships. Absolutely. Olivia Spell.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Olivia Spell. I am the high school band director at Corinth Holders High School in Wendell, North Carolina. It's a Wake County address, but it's technically in Johnston County. I've been teaching in North Carolina for 13 years, and I look forward to sharing some information with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss Bernadette Watts.
I'm Bernadette Watts. I just retired after 32 years in choral director. Majority of my career was spent at Alexander Central High School, and I just retired from Brighton High School, and just excited to hear what everyone has to say.
Thank you, Bernadette. Last and definitely not least, Bethany Jenkins. I'm sorry, Jennings. Sorry, not Jenkins, Jennings.
It's okay. I'm Bethany. I teach at Stuart Kramer High School in Belmont, North Carolina. I started my career teaching middle school, but I am at a high school. This is my Sweet 16, or hoping it's going to be my Sweet 16. And I did teach ukulele last year. So looking forward to dropping some. I'm not saying I wanted to teach ukulele, but that's just what happened. So hoping to help any of you out and actually glean from my colleagues today.
Awesome. Thank you, Bethany. All right, so we're going to start with elementary, all right? And D. Yoder is our elementary specialist. So, D, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, one of the first things that was told to me is have seating charts. When you're a new elementary teacher, you can have as many as 800 students that you learn all in a matter of a couple of days, and they will remember your name, and it's important you remember them. Those relationships are so important. If you build them early, your years later on are awesome. My discipline problems in my classrooms are minimal because these kids know me well and I know them, and it's an honor and a privilege to watch them come in as babies and be mine until they leave, and that's usually in 5th grade. Some of them I've had for 8 years. So if you have a relationship with those children, then it's much easier for you. And call their names often so you get to know them. Have some activities that are fun that you always have ready to go, because you're going to have a lesson every now and then that's going to bomb. I still do. And I went to a new school last year and found out I needed to pull out some of those old tricks. And I still have them. But make your lessons to where you enjoy them, because if you don't enjoy them, the children aren't either. And be ready to expand on what you have whenever you have something come up. You're often the face of that school in the community because you're the one that's doing the programs. So make it a point to get to know the people in the community as well. Don't hesitate to reach out to others because you're the only one. We're soloists now, and we're so much a part of an ensemble that to us it's very different for us to be by ourselves. But there's a huge community out here to help you. Follow people like David Rao, Tracy King, Amy Burns. I could go on and on. Artie Almeida, Denise Gagne, and become familiar with them. Often they'll do webinars on their own personal Facebook pages and stuff. So you have lots of places you can go back to and learn about them, and reach out to these people because they're all very personable, and you can have a great time getting to know these fabulous music educators, as well as have access to resources at your fingertips. Another thing that we wanted to, I wanted to share, and I talked with Dawn Wilson about this. She said to tell you she's sorry she's not here, but she hopes to see you face-to-face at conference. Make sure that you allow yourself the opportunity to enjoy the music and slow down. You don't have to teach them all at once. If you want to, it's okay to repeat a song and teach it in different ways. And the main job you have is to teach them the love of music. We provide them a foundation. If we don't provide them that love of music, and they don't go away from your classroom feeling good, then we haven't done our job right. And I don't, there's some styles of music I don't care for, but your children may like it, and it's okay to give them something that they can do with that, and allow them the opportunity to be creative and have fun with it. And the best thing for you to do is to, as you get to see them do that, you have fun too. So enjoy your year. Know that we are here for you. Know that we are here for you. You can be, whether you're virtual or whether you are in person, you can build those things. We have resources amongst ourselves in my county and with other groups that we have compiled that has anything from how to teach certain songs and orphan instrumentation, ukulele, or whatever. So feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll add you to our list and share our information. And I promise you'll know some things we need to know, so talk to us. Jonathan, I think that's about it. I hope you guys reach out to us, and good luck. Have fun. That's what music is. I have behind me that says right here, sorry, teach music to the child and you give the soul a voice. And I believe that. So you have a job ahead of you, but it's amazing.
Thank
So
you. Thank you, Dee. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I know our music educators appreciate that as well. Also, Janet put in the chat idea in your district, create Google folders to share ideas and resources with the other music educators. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Janet. All right, next, Eugene Mabry.
All right, thanks, Mr. Hamel. I'm going to attempt to share screen here and share sound. Let's see. Okay, so my five keys for helping you out this year, coming from the middle school band perspective, is all going to be centered around balance. And the longer you live, the more you'll realize balance is really important. It's clearly important in an ensemble, and all of us here have been members of ensembles, but it's going to be important in everything else that you do in life. So the first thing that I would like to emphasize is take time to be organized, but also be willing to update your organization. So this is going to be a thing that's ongoing, and you could kind of read along with me. I'm trying to make sure that I stay on point myself. And you have time management, lesson plans, and I'm going to talk about lesson plans and seating charts briefly. Go ahead and have your lesson plans definitely for the first week of school. Do not feel intimidated because the teacher down the hall has planned the entire first 9 weeks, because even if you do plan the first 9 weeks, you need to assess those students as you go, and you need to update those plans. You never know. This is quite an interesting field that we're in. And just because you have a really good lesson plan, that's not going to tell you how fast or how slow or how successful the plan is going to be. You could do it in record time and the kids are on point. You really have to come up with more teaching material, or you had a great lesson, but for some reason they just didn't get it. And that's not necessarily a flaw with you or with them. You'll find out in teaching things happen like there was a full moon and the kids just weren't focused that day. And you just have to roll with the punches. When you're working with others, think of a system that works best for you. Just a couple of examples I'm throwing out there for organization. 3-ring binders help me. If you give me a folder full of papers, I'm going to end up in the course of the day with papers scattered all over the place. So if I punch holes in them and put them in a binder and label that binder, I'm good to go. I can find that information later as well. One thing that I did not put on here, a simple clipboard. I have a clipboard here that I believe I have next to me, and it's nothing fancy. It's just a blue clipboard, but same thing. Our schedule is really busy. We have 6 classes a day, and then the following day we have a different 6 classes. And so we have an A day, B day rotating schedule. The schedule is very tight. So in a pile of papers, I discovered my first year teaching, I couldn't find the attendance. And I knew I took it, I just couldn't figure out where I put it. But if it's on something simple like this, it helps me stay organized. No matter what's going on, I say, oh yeah, there's the blue clipboard, and I can move on. Second thing on there, create a network. Identify some successful mentors in your school that don't teach your subject, because they're in your school. They know the policy and procedures, and they know the students and the parents. You need someone who is used to working in that situation. Now, chances are you're the only person teaching your class in that school. So whether you're general music, chorus, orchestra, band, there's probably only one of you in most cases. So you're going to have to branch out, as Dee already alluded to, and you're going to have to get connected with someone who is successful in your field, but they're outside of your school, but they know the craft that you teach. After you talk with enough people, work out something that works for you. So the balance there is get advice from different people who are worthy of giving you advice, but don't be afraid to say, well, that's really great. I'm going to adopt that, but I'm going to shift it to meet my needs. There's an example I want to share with you below. is one of the things that we don't like to talk about a lot, but we have to talk about is discipline. And I'm going to share a little thing with you at the bottom of the screen. And let's see if I can scroll down to it. This is one, I don't know. Is there anyone, I'm going to unshare for a moment. Is there anyone in here who is familiar with the term conduct cuts? Because I don't want to waste time going over something you already know. Oh, well, you're going to love this. And again, adopt it to what you want to do. So, good friend of mine teaches 7th grade at my school. Went to talk with them one day about the way they handle things in 7th grade, because for middle school teachers, that's the squirreliest grade level. But that group of teachers is just solid at our school. I don't even know why, but they have been for years. So they do a simple way of handling their conduct. And so I'll just give you a brief intro of it. So it's an effective way to document behavior issues in your classroom. You got to be fair, you got to be consistent, and let's say things go wrong and you have to call a parent or you have to refer a child to the office. You can't say, generic things like, well, they just keep messing up my class. You need to be really specific when you are going to the next level to ask for help. Now, when I show you this list, remember, don't overuse it and turn it into a military operation. The balance is you have to let kids be kids, but you still need to maintain order in your classroom or your band room or your chorus room. But you know what I'm saying. So here's just a list of the guidelines in my room, for example. And then below the guidelines, you'll see the results for not following them. Verbal warning, conference with student, and you see there's a progression. And then the last resort, we need to let the office step in and take over the situation. So here's my story for that. Once upon a time, there was a lot of chatter between two students on a Wednesday. It was an inappropriate time in class for them to be chattering. And so after the teacher addressed it 3 times, the teacher gave the students both conduct cuts, which is guideline 3. And so if we scroll down here, you can see that Bryson and Gloria, who I just made up some names, so I hope there's no one on here that you think you know, because I just made them up. Bryson and Gloria on August 25th, there was a lot of extra talking, and I addressed it several times. And I said, you know what, conduct cut for talking. Okay, so on Friday of the same week, one of the same students throws a piece of paper at the other student. This is similar to guideline number 2, which is keep your hands and feet and instrument to yourself, but I just didn't put paper on there. So what I did is made a little note on Friday, too, and then a note that says paper. So now I have on a simple blank copy of my roll, and you can just run an extra set of your roll. It's pretty easy to do. I have a record of what went on. Now, as you can see from the second offense, what you want to do, have a conference with the student. After having a conference, I discovered, there's a lot going on that I wasn't aware of. And then hopefully what I can do is talk to that student or the other student or both and resolve the situation instead of just saying, you're messing up my class and I'm sending you to the office. Now, direct result of that, if you do have to take it to the office, you have documentation of how you have made several attempts to handle the situation. Also, you might have already taken care of it before bothering people in the office. And your students will respect you more for, well, I'm glad you didn't just write me up, because something went wrong. And that'll really help your ensemble to move on quite well. Another thing slightly off the subject, but it's still valid. The fewer times you depend on the office to help you with your class, and the more times you work with the parents and the students, then your school will start supporting you quite a bit. Also, as I warned one student, say, I don't write up a lot of students. If I write you up, they're going to think you're like, the devil reincarnated or something if you show up in the office. So just something to share. Oh, I need to speed up before Mr. Hamel cuts me off. Be a team player at your school, work with your other teachers, work with the community, still run your program, but don't make it all about your program. Balance it out. You are a part of that school. If you can help them at an event by providing music, do it. Maybe the students aren't ready, but maybe you can do it. Maybe you can solo for that event. I won't go through all this, but I'll be glad to send you the notes or make sure Mr. Hamel can send them out. Social and emotional learning is really important this year. You are the teacher. You're not their friend, but you're also not a drill sergeant. You need to be a role model and a mentor. The students need to know that you care about what's going on. And if you balance that out, we have work to do, but I do care about you as an individual. And you take time to get to know the students by different activities and interactions, then you'll come out real well. Pass offs are great for this time of year. I won't go into that unless someone um, needs extra information on it, but it's a great way to teach a diverse group. And we're going to have to differentiate instruction this year like never before. The last two items, as I'll rush to finish, reflect every day with a plus delta. This is something one of my principals taught us several years back. Plus represents the things that went well. Deltas, the things that need improvement. So at the end of a day or end of a lesson or end of a week, write down, here's a list of what went really well. And then here's a list of what I could really improve on. Now, the things that need improvement, you may need a third column that says, well, how am I going to improve that? And that might simply be, I'm going to have to ask another teacher to help me out, or I think I'll restructure my lesson, or I'll simply change my seating chart. So make sure you do that and reflect, because it's going to help you out to become a master teacher. Last but not least, work hard, but enjoy life. You're going to have to give 110% to make your program work. It's not going to work without you, and you got to be all in it if it's going to be successful. However, you also need to take time for you. You're not just the music teacher at that school. You are an individual, and you need to take time to unplug and do things that you enjoy within reason. So I will stop there so I don't use up the entire session.
Thank you, Eugene. Awesome. Next, Miss Jolie Brooks.
I just want to say I appreciate what Dee had to say about teaching kids to love music. That's really important, because if they don't love it, they're not going to keep going in it. And all of us think that music makes the world better and makes better people out of the students that we have, and helps students to reach their potential in a socio-emotional kind of way. And so I appreciate what you had to say there. And Eugene, I think you and I could probably team teach, because pretty much everything you said is something that I was nodding the whole time. I know you couldn't see me, but I appreciate the structure that you have. The first thing I want to say, and none of my stuff is really music oriented, it's more about teaching in general. The first thing I want to say is always do what's right for kids. Do what's right for kids. I don't mean for this to sound harsh. But I'm a very plain spoken person. So if it sounds harsh, I apologize. This is not about you. It is not about your job or your comfort. You are not there to build your program so that you can have a job. You are there to do what's right for kids. And if you do, these other rewards, like, building your program so you have a job, will come to you, but it can't be about that. And when you make decisions, that's what you should be focused on, is what's right for the kid. I found out after many years of, struggling, especially when I went through and got my administrative degree, it really changed the way I thought about decision making. And I realized that I was making decision making about that kid's going to do what I tell them to do, because I'm the teacher, by golly. And I found that once my paradigm shifted, once my mindset changed, I was making actually the same decisions, but I was doing them for a different reason. And that made me much less emotional about the decisions I made, much less defensive, and much more able to explain them to parents and administrators. So it didn't necessarily change what I wanted to do, but it changed the reason. So when you frame problems to your administration or to your parents or to the students, talk about them in terms of what's right for students. If you don't have a planning period and you need a planning period, it needs to be about what you can do for the students, because you have a planning period of what you can't do for the students because you don't have one. Okay. And administrators will hear that in a different way. Structure, Eugene, you'll appreciate this, I think. Structure provides security to the students, and it also provides security to you, because you know that you are ready for the day. I don't know if any of you teach in AVID schools. We're an Avid County and Onslow County. And so Avid's all about structure and helping students to be successful. And it's just good teaching stuff, really. Make sure and have lesson plans and your materials ready before you start the day. Lesson plans don't need to be scripted. They can just be like a bulleted list. So don't get real wrapped up about, having them where like you had to have them when you turned them in for, whatever project in college, because none of us do that. Just to, have a list of things that you want to do and make sure you've got your materials together to do that. I want to recommend an oldie but goodie for everyone, whether you just started teaching or whether you've been teaching a long time. And it's the name of the book is The First Days of School. The First Days of School. It's by educators Harry and Rosemary Wong, W-O-N-G. And I want to say maybe the book came out in the 90s or in the early 2000s, but it's a fantastic book on procedures. It's easy to read. It's got, pictures and diagrams and little funny stories, and it's just a super duper book, The First Days of School. But in it, Harry and Rosemary Wong talk about if you have procedures, your classroom will kind of run itself, and it short circuits a lot of classroom management problems that you would otherwise have. Make sure that you've got your procedures down. Have the students, whether it's coming in the room, where to put their instruments, how to put their instruments away, looking at the board and doing what it says on the board as soon as they come in, whatever. Make sure that you have your procedures down and that students know what to do regarding procedures, and then your classroom will get to a point where that it runs itself. And practice those procedures and redirect students back into those consistent procedures that you have, and that will save time later on. If you can spend a little while getting them trained at the beginning of the school year, every year that you have that kid, they will know what to do and you won't have to reteach it. As far as classroom management, make sure that you have rules and consequences that your admin will support. It doesn't do any good to have down that they will have lunch detention if admin won't support them having lunch detention. So make sure that you're in line with your school on that. I love what Eugene had about the sequential consequences. That's how it should be. And you have to accept the fact that sooner or later you're going to have to punish one of your students. I always hated punishing students, so I'd put it off, and that wasn't the best solution usually. At the same time, you want to be flexible. Somebody's having a bad day, do you know what I'm saying, and pull them aside and talk to them, find out what's going on first. But if kids find out that you won't hold them to consequences, then they'll run the classroom, and that's not good for them. Make sure and call your parents. If your parents are angry, listen to the parent, let them get it off their chest, and then you can work together. Everybody needs to feel like they're being heard. So try to listen first, and then the parent will be ready to listen back to you. Don't yell. Don't yell. Please don't yell. Don't yell. Don't threaten. Don't embarrass students. They need to feel safe, and they need to know that you're in control, and they need to know that you're in control. And if you're yelling or threatening them or embarrassing them, or if you just come in one day and you say, I've had it, that's enough, I'm done, you're going to do this from now on, then that becomes about you, and that becomes about your mood instead of about what the student has done. And it can't be about you and your mood. It's got to be about the student and not about you. People say you can't change your procedures or your rules until the new semester, the new year, and that's not true. Every time I've had to make a change, I've done it in the middle of the semester. And this is what I do. I will say to the students, this happened more like in music appreciation class, than it did in orchestra. But I'd say, we're going to have to change these rules if these aren't working. So you need to make a choice and show me through your behavior. And then if they didn't get their act together, then the next day I'd say, when you come back in on Monday, there's going to be some new rules, and I just want you to be ready for that. And so I gave them notice, and then they'd come in, and there'd be no more rules, and there'd be a little bit of pushback, but not too much. You can change things. So don't think you have to live out to the end of the semester. Number 3, it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know. It's okay to say, I'm not sure about that. Let me do some research on that, and I'll get you an answer tomorrow. It's even okay to say, I'm really upset right now with what's happened. I'm going to give this some thought, and I'll let you know tomorrow how we're going to handle this. You don't have to decide everything in the heat of the moment. And that's some advice that a dear principal gave to me back in my first year teaching. So it's okay if you're not sure what to do, Or if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, I don't know, or let me think about it, or let me do some research. Don't feel like you're going to lose space with the kids, because I've never had that happen. I don't think you will either. Number 4, this is going to be harsh again. I don't mean for it to be. Please don't be a hypocrite. If your kids aren't allowed to eat in the classroom, don't eat in the classroom. If your kids aren't allowed to use their cell phones in the classroom, don't use your cell phone, because kids hate hypocrisy and they won't respect you if you do that. So please don't do that. We aren't allowed to use cell phones at school. The kids aren't allowed to in the classroom. If my 89-year-old mother is driving in her car to 2.5 hours to come and see me, which she does a few times a year, praise God for that. I'm going to tell the kids, my 89-year-old mother is on the road. I'm going to keep my cell phone on my stand today because she's on the road just in case there's a problem. And the kids are like, okay, and it's just not a problem. But I don't have it out just because I'm the teacher and I can. And I don't drink coffee in the classroom just because I'm the teacher and I can, because they can't. That's not fair. And the last thing I have is probably actually the most important one. Have high expectations for students. When your kids come to you this year, they are not going to be the kids that you would have had come in your classroom a few years ago. And you all know why. They are going to those parents send you the best kids they've got every day. They are going to be wherever they are, and you can't change that. If you want them to be playing grade 3 music and they're playing grade half music, you can't change that today. Those kids are whoever they are. But what you have to do is take them where they are, regroup if you have to, in your thinking and in your lesson plans, and help them to move on from wherever they are, and accepting them where they are and telling them wherever you are is fine. But everybody has to work hard and improve, whether you're the strongest, student, or, whether you have some things you don't understand. We're all going to work together, and we're all going to work hard. And wherever you are, we're going to work hard every day, and we're going to improve together. And I will do everything I can to help you. That's the other important part. High expectations, push the kids, but you be there for them every step of the way and do everything that you can to help them. And that's how you create a successful program that does what's right for students, and it helps them to feel like they can achieve and they can do anything.
Thank you, Jolie. Thank you. Wow, this has been great. Yeah. All right. Next, Olivia Spell. Miss Olivia Spell, whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. She's a tough act to follow. Everybody is so far. And I hope not to sound like a broken record, but I think it's fantastic that we all kind of have the same little snippets and same ideas and can offer different perspectives on each of those. So I'll be piggybacking on a few things they said, and hopefully adding a few other perspectives coming from the high school band world. I agree with Ms. Brooks. A lot of what we do on a daily basis, it's about the music and it's about teaching kids to love the music, but it's so much more than that. And I hope as young teachers and veteran teachers, you guys are ready with the lesson plans and the teaching and the picking out the pieces and the going to the NPA and all that good stuff. But there's so much more outside of that. And one of the big things that Ms. Brooks said, it's okay to not have the answer. I have found just in my 13 years, especially with high schoolers, they respect you so much more if you can say, I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to look that up. And it can be about anything, procedures in the school, procedures in your district or your state, whether it's music related or lesson plan related or college related. They will definitely respect you more if you're okay with saying, I don't have the answer, but I'm happy to find out. And on that, find out and get back to them in a timely fashion. Follow up with that if it's a personal conversation or with the whole class, making sure you follow up with that. And on the back side of that, I also want to piggyback on something Mr. Mabry said. Find a mentor, find a colleague that's a few years older than you, that you respect, that you're comfortable sharing things with, and communicate with them regularly, whether it be your cooperating teacher. I know when my first year, second year, even third year teaching, I spoke to my cooperating teacher almost every day. Either I would call him or he would call me to check in or ask questions. I still have colleagues to this day when it comes to picking out music and setting instrumentation in my wind ensemble and what drill writer to use and how do you write drill and how much do you pay for drill and all of those questions. I think sometimes as directors and teachers and music educators, we get so wrapped up in everything that we have to do that we forget that we have this huge community of amazing people who just want to help. We want to give you the answers. We want to suggest. We want to give you resources and Google folders and syllabus and documents and all kinds of things. So please find somebody, reach out. I'm sure anybody in this meet right now would be happy to help. NCMEA has tons of resources. People in your county, people in your district. Yeah, the mentor program the NCMEA runs is fantastic. So do not hesitate and do not feel like you're ever bothering anybody. I have my first student that I taught in high school who's a band director, and she just finished her first year, God bless her, in COVID. And every time she texts me, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm like, you're not bothering me. Please ask all of the questions. I still have people that I reach out to, and don't hesitate to ask about anything. Nothing is too big or too small. So that was one of my big points. Another one that I don't know if anybody's mentioned yet is know the key people in your building, in your district, in your state, your bookkeeper, your secretary, your head custodian, an assistant principal that you feel close to and you can go to with questions. Who's in charge of the calendar? Who's in charge of PDPs? Who's in charge of attendance? Guidance counselors from a high school perspective. Guidance counselors right now, my guidance counselors are still emailing me on the weekends trying to get everybody in the right class. Know their favorite snack, know their favorite drink. Be happy to provide those when you turn in your grades late, because it's going to happen. Just know all the key people and people in your county. Whether you have a fine arts director, some of you are lucky enough to have that. We unfortunately are not. Whoever's in charge of your PLCs at a local level, at a county level, know your district leadership from a band perspective, know who you can reach out to, and your state leadership. So you can stay informed as far as things go like that. So know the key people. And with that, stay informed of deadlines. I know one of my biggest weaknesses still 13 years in, when are my grades due? When do I send out progress reports? When is my registration for Allstate due? When is my registration for MPA due? Make a calendar of those dates. As a young teacher, especially, it's devastating. I watched it happen one year. They missed the all districts deadline and their kids were not eligible to audition. And that's a terrible place to be in for you and for your students. So make sure that you stay informed. Communicate. I personally believe that you cannot over communicate with parents. My favorite thing is when a parent says, well, I didn't know there was a concert. And you can say, well, did you see the email? It was on Instagram. It was on this, over communicate with the students, send home papers, send home emails, Google Classroom, Canvas announcements, whatever platform it is you use, reminds, text messages, things of that nature to help you stay connected with your parents. They can be your best friends and they can be your worst enemies as far as your student participation goes in your program. So make sure to get them on your side and communicate with them as well. One of the last things that I'll throw out there, and Mr. Mabry kind of touched on this, and this is something I wish somebody had told me in my first few years of teaching. Do the little things in your school community. Again, like Mr. Mabry said, it's not about you, it's about creating that culture. My principal asked me to hook up a microphone on Monday at 7:50 for our 8 o'clock meeting for us to, welcome everybody in. And I was running around setting up the microphone because when I go to him and ask him for new music stands and risers and uniforms, he's going to support me. When they need the national anthem at the Special Olympics, is it in my schedule? Absolutely not, but we'll show up. We'll play the national anthem for the Special Olympics. We'll do the little things to create a positive environment and that school culture. And like I said, I know a lot of these things weren't about teaching, but I think all of them kind of put together will help everything else come in place for you and your students and your program.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I'll tell you, that Instagram is becoming a really popular tool.
Mhm.
So if you're not a part of that, you might want to check on that as well. All right, next, Miss Bernadette Watts.
Um, I have to say, yeah, I'm going to touch on some things that's already been mentioned. But first of all, I want to say to Eugene, you're spot on about that full moon. I mean, you know when it's a full moon. And I'm actually at my best friend's house, and she is our principal in our county. And so when Jolie said, um, it's not about you, she did the big fist pump from her couch and said, if you need a job, she'll hire you right now. So I don't know if you ever want to come back into it, but she's doing the thumbs up and the nod when you said that. So I'm going to come from the choral high school world. And the first thing I had is you want to make your class super fun. You want to make your class something that's like the best kept secret that everybody in that school wants to be part of. And I did a lot of things to try to market your program. And when you said about the Instagram and the social media, that's so important now, because at that age group, they wake up, first thing they do is they're on that phone. And so we did an Instagram, and my school was High Brighton, and so our Instagram post was High Brighton Your Day with a Song. And the kids are all about seeing their picture on the gram. And if you're not crafty with words, then I would go to an English teacher at your school who is, and just say, hey, think about this for a couple of days and see what you think. I also am thinking about like building programs, because after COVID, probably a lot of people's numbers are down. And so what I would do is, like, I would do anything, like they're going to come for food and they're going to come for candy. And so I would do these things at the beginning, at the first day of school, called a few of my favorite things. And it would always be things that they could use for the classroom, or things that would wrap around our program. Everybody would get, and I'd make a big deal out of it. Like, oh, highlighter, oh, a pen, a pencil. Everybody gets a water bottle with, one year I had somebody donate t-shirts. And so like our advanced class was called Mad Choir. And I had these t-shirts printed that, said, we're not mad, we're just intense, High Brighton High School, stuff like that. I would, when we had spirit days, our family growing up, all my kids are heavy in sports, football, baseball, basketball, cheer, and everything. And so on spirit days, I was lucky that my son had LeBron jerseys. We're big LeBron fans at our house. And so I'm working the LeBron jersey. And, I was lucky because our classroom was close to the gym. And so all these, big dudes, I'd be wearing the jerseys, Stephen Curry, and I'd get these looks, and I'd do the head nod, sup, and they're like, nice jersey. I'm like, you ought to check out my class. What class do you teach? And I say, I teach chorus, come on. And then lo and behold, or I say, we have a lot of hot girls. You ought to come check it out. I mean, anything to kind of play that game. And it worked. I even would wear Air Force Ones to school, and my kids would be like, no, Miss Watts, make sure you don't get creases in your Air Force Ones. And I'd be like, okay, I got you. And I would wear like sweaters, and back in the day, blazers, and I would put like candy in my pockets. If a kid was doing a great job one day, with that tall vowel and stuff, I'd toss out a Reese's cup, and then everybody would be like, oh my gosh, I want that. It's the unexpected. And then like when we'd have a terrible sound, I'd have a yellow flag in my pocket, and I'd throw the flag, and I'd say, oh, flag right there at the tenor section, you missed that rhythm. And some days I would have a whistle, and they hate the whistle. But, if something happened and it was a gosh awful, bad rhythm, I'd take the whistle up, got a foul right over here. And they think it's hilarious. So that's one thing. One thing that, sometimes I hear like people would say that their numbers aren't big in their classroom because they don't have a big feeder program. And I think that's kind of whining, because I think that's our job to get the kids in our class, because with our class being elective classes, if they have to walk across that threshold, and we need to make it encouraging for them to do that, because at the end of the day, if we don't have those kids filling up those seats, we're not going to have a job. So I think anything that we do to market our program, to make it fun, The other thing that I had is pick good rep. Don't be scared to give your kids good rep. Don't give into this. And I'm a choral snob, but don't give into this cheese ball music, I call it. Don't be scared to throw out there. The harder, the better, the more challenging. They're going to rise to the occasion. You know, give them the language. Make sure you offer big diversity in your rep, because if you're not, then you're doing a disservice to your kids. Also, make them sight read every day. They're going to hate it. And you say, well, you know, I have to brush my teeth and put on my deodorant, or I chalk it up to, you know, I hate unloading the dishwasher at my house. And I say, you know, I still have to unload my dishwasher, but I do it. So every single day, even if it's you know, here, let's go, make them do it. And I think that's super important. Also, the third thing I have is make sure I would give them as many opportunities as you can. You know, always one thing that was a struggle for me retiring is, you know, I was always lucky enough to know that God put me on this earth to teach. And I always felt like I was a decent wife, a decent mother, a decent friend, but I was always really confident in my teaching, because like going in that classroom, you know, with those kids, that was like my sanctuary. And so I wanted to give them as many opportunities as possible, you know. So growing up, we didn't have any money. And I was lucky enough that my high school choral director took me to this thing called honors course, and Rhonda Fleming was my director. And as I sat there, I thought, that's what I want to do. And so give your kids as many opportunities as possible. Honors course, Mars Hill, Wingate, MPA, All-State, as much as you can do, because for some of them, they don't have opportunities. You know, it might kill it, you know, it kills us, you know, you're exhausted, but at the end of the day, you know, it's like Jolie said, it's not about us, and it's about your kids. And for some of our kids, and a lot of our kids, we are the most constant that they see every day, because they have crap parents. So I think, you know, taking them to opportunities like honors chorus and quick. So I had a kid make honors chorus his sophomore and junior year who was homeless. He'd go couch to couch to couch, but the kid can absolutely sing. And when he was a sophomore at honors chorus, and I knew what it was going to be like, because I kept telling him, and he's like, okay, all right, you know, kind of blowing it off. And when they hit that first warm up, he gave me a look, and I just went, yeah. And so give them these opportunities. And when you give them those opportunities as a teacher, God, this is going to be kind of harsh. But if they're with a good clinician, learn from that clinician. I mean, I think everything that I did, I stole from people. Like I stole from Bethany the thing about the puzzle game day. That you need to do that. And but if it's a good clinician like Christopher Ospas, I mean, just sit there and listen, get away, quit talking just for 15 minutes and just learn from them. And then I'm gonna piggyback on what Olivia said. I had written, don't cut the hand that butters your bread. You know, learn the names of your custodians, your bus drivers, your cafeteria workers, all of them, your guidance, especially your receptionist. And like when your kids get that t-shirt at the beginning of the year, you give that swag out to them too. I would give it to them before I would give it to any principals, and they're going to wear it. And when your kids see them wearing, you know, your custodian walking around with "How Brighten Your Day" with the song, your kids are going to be like, you're wearing our shirt. And that gives them ownership and community. And then lastly, I just say be genuine. I mean, your kids know whether you're faking it or not. And you know, dress for work like you care. I mean, I would rock the jeans and t-shirts, but you know, my hair would be fixed and I would look like I would care, because if you come to school and you look like you don't care, your kids, man, they pick up on that big time. And I'm all about for wearing jeans, but when I was wearing jeans with them rolled up with the Air Force Ones and stuff like that, you know, I'm still, my face is going to be at least cheeks pinched or something, like I look like I care. And I think that's about it. I just this is a weird place for me, not teaching, first time in 32 years, you know, and I'm a nerd. I love school, but anyway, I just want to encourage you that you are doing an amazing thing, and you're going to touch so many lives. And just remember, on days when you're like, what the crap am I doing? Know that you're doing the right thing. So, and reach out, ask for help. So that's it. So that's all I had.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. That was awesome. I really love what you said about those feeder programs. I always used to tell folks, especially high school folks, if you're reaching out to the middle school, you might have waited too late. You want to reach out to the middle school and the elementary school, because that's where they actually make the decision on where they want to be, whether they want to be band, orchestra, chorus, or whatever. So reach out to those elementary schools. Absolutely.
Mr. Hamel, may I
Yes.
cut in for a moment?
Absolutely.
I want you all to know the kind of person who is helping to facilitate this workshop. The middle school where I teach was never a direct feeder to any of the high schools that Jonathan Hamel taught at. I had a student one year who moved to another side of town, and I asked him, well, where are you going to school for high school? He tells me he's going to the school where Hamel teaches. I said, well, let me text him real quick and let him know that you're on your way over there. This young man was thinking about signing up for football. And so the next morning at 7:45 a.m., Jonathan Hamel shows up at my school on the other side of town, out of his district, to meet this student. And he asked the student, he said, well, I understand you're trying out for football. And he says, yeah. He said, well, have you met the football coach? I said, no, sir. He said, well, Mr. Mabry texted me yesterday, and I'm right here. And, of course, the student continued in band for several years. So Jonathan Hamel practices what he preaches.
Thank you so much, Gene. I didn't pay him to say that, guys, but that was a Darian, wasn't it? Yeah, Darian is now a tuba player at Shaw University. So I mean, he kept going. He was at Parkland. Now he's doing tuba at Shaw University. So, hey, we did something right, right? That was a great story. Thank you, Eugene. All right, last and definitely not least, Bethany Jennings, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. Maybe least, I don't know, but thank you. Gosh, I wasn't thinking at first. I was feeling pretty grateful for the opportunity to be last, and now I'm thinking, wow, this has all been said pretty much. But I do teach high school choral music. But what I did in kind of thinking about today is thinking a little less from the high school choral perspective, although certainly applicable. And I know the homework assignment was to have 5 things here, but I really only have 4. And I don't know, but for me, I'm inundated. I start in 48 hours. I am not feeling good. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel a little crazy. I've had my video camera off because I was eating Honey Nut Cheerios thinking, how am I supposed to sit here and pretend like I've got it all together? Because I don't. And I'll be in year 16. So just know that if you're feeling anxious, whether you're year 1 or year whatever, that you're just join the club, because if I could share my phone, you would see the thousands of group texts I'm in right now with colleagues that are just, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm not going to make it. How are we going to do this? I mean, my phone has been blowing up for all summer. So rest assured, it's going to be okay. It will be okay. And it's okay to feel anxious, and it's okay to feel like a fish out of water. That said, one thing I wish that someone would have told me a long, long time ago is that, when you get your schedule, and I can't speak for elementary teachers because I know that sometimes this is not part of their life, but you have this planning period. But what I wish somebody would have told me is that planning is very, very different than prepping. So, for example, I guess if you're in a block schedule like I am for high school, we have 90 minutes of planning a day. And that sounds like a good chunk of time, and it is. However, once you use that time for planning, then you have to prep the plans that you have made. And that's where prepping probably takes more time than planning, at least for me. I really can come up with some awesome plans, but what deters me often from executing is that I don't have the time to prep those plans. So just keep in mind that planning is very different than prepping. So whatever that looks like for you, planning a week at a time, or 2 weeks at a time, or I'm not really sure, but just remember that prepping that plan is going to take just as much time, if not more. So that's number one. And then number two, I was in my county, we have 10 high schools, and we have 2 teachers, myself included, that have over 7 years experience. And then everyone else has under 5, except for one who has 8. And we have 4 beginning teachers at the high school level. So we spent a lot of our PLT and PLC time this past week kind of going back to, okay, beginning teacher advice and that kind of thing. So I wanted to pull one thing that we talked a lot about in my PLC is in your classroom, and again, this is just my philosophy, rules are very different than procedures. There are going to be hundreds of procedures, which are in themselves rules, but not what you give to students as rules, or not what I give to students as rules. So I have 4 rules in my classroom, and they're really just umbrella statements for how we are going to execute all the procedures. And I don't tell them that. That's just what the rules are. So number 1, be present. Number 2, be prepared. Number 3, be professional. And number 4, be positive. So those are the rules. I mean, very simple, straightforward, but really all encompassing for how we're going to execute all the procedures, which are, in probably dozens and dozens of procedures. So I, a couple of years ago, just sat down and made a list of all the procedures I need to make sure I go over, not at one time, certainly. And I don't write them down anywhere. I just make sure somewhere in the first week or 2 that I'm explaining, how do I ask to go to the restroom? What does that look like? What if I have a snack? Or, I pretend I'm the student, and that's how I came up with my list of procedures and those kinds of things. So rules versus procedures. So I'm going to go back because this is what I do with my students. Number 1 was planning versus prepping. Number 2 was rules versus procedures. So my third thing I wanted to highlight today was just in light of what we've been through with the global pandemic. I was joking at the beginning that I taught ukulele last semester, and I did. I had a blast. That's obviously not what I wanted to be doing as a choral teacher, but I had a blast. My students had a blast, and we made the best of it. But moving forward, what I think I'm going to do is start with a unit 0 and explain it to the students. Like we need to just, because with high school, here's what they want to do. They want to do the hard stuff. That's what they're there for. If you've retained them, the juniors and the seniors, they're there probably because they remember the advanced choir when they were freshmen singing some really cool stuff. Because if you think about it, this school year, the only class that will have had a completely normal high school year are the seniors. And that, y'all, to me is just scary. My 11th graders will have only had 1 winter concert with me and 1 event that we call singing supper. That's it. My part of the state did not make it to NPA. My 10th graders had ukulele. And then my 9th graders, if they took chorus in middle school at all, the last time they had a concert was 6th grade, and probably not because they were probably on the wheel. So we are at ground 0. And I am a little nervous trying to jump back in here because there's not going to be any Moses Hogan or Uncle Stacy Gibbs this semester or even year. So I need to start back over with unit 0, in which I'm just going to do a lot of echoing and a lot of rote singing. If I find that they're good at that, if my advanced choir is with me and advanced. If my advanced choir is with me and we're rocking and rolling with the echoing and the rote songs, how fast can I get them singing harmony? That's really going to be the key. Well, I'm going to do it by teaching rote songs and teaching that harmony. I may hand them some stuff. So I've made a list of songs, and I'm going to tell the students that we're going to call them our back pocket songs. So these are easy, probably not, but easy little songs that we can just whip out anytime, because you know how people say, you know, oh, your chorus, sing us a song. You're just going to have to whip something out. So these are going to be really, really easy songs, but with some good, easy harmonies. They're like, ooh, and they feel so proud of themselves and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to start with the unit 0. I've made the joke to my students and my parents for a long, long time that you know, in choral music, they think that, and no offense to my band colleagues, because I started in band too, but even band people, they think that we just hold hands and sing Kumbaya. That's just what they think we do. And the truth is, some teachers do that, but there are a lot of us in this state that don't do that. So you know what I did? I found a really kick-ass version of Kumbaya, and we are going to sing that this year. And I'm just over it. And that's what we're doing. So we're going to start, you know, unison, of course. But then I found this really awesome SATB arrangement of Kumbaya. And I'm trying to be on a mission. I'm like Bernadette. I feel like this is my mission field. And those of you who feel that way too, you understand sometimes mission work, well, probably all the time, it's not supposed to be easy. And it might be really hard. And while sometimes my job, you know, fills me up, I'm already like, oh God, I don't know if this year is going to fill me up or not, but I'm really going to try. I'm going to give it my best. So the last piece of advice I have that I also wish someone would have told me a long time ago is, and many of you have already said this, yes, ask for help and reach out to others. The caveat is this. We all, even though maybe all the high school choral teachers, or you ask all the middle school chorus teachers, or your elementary or band, you get the advice, but you have to remember that the context is always different. Even if you work in the same county, even if you have the exact same numbers, I have 30 in my freshman choir, I have 30, and your neighbor has 30 in their freshman choir. What works for them may or may not work for you. And I also agreed earlier, make friends with the custodians and the data manager and the counselors. And frankly, sometimes you just get counselors or people in your building who will not support you. They just think you hold hands and sing Kumbaya. So they're going to push all those kids to the CTE class. And so, you know, I'm just reach out to others, but do not be discouraged when you try something that your neighbor does that works really well for them and it doesn't work for you at all. You need to also know that I could right now, if you wanted me to send you my first 10 days lesson plans, like scripted out, say this, do this, I'm happy to send them to you. But the bottom line is, like, I've been teaching 16 years. It works for me and my personality. It may not work for you and your personality. Teaching is not one of those recipe card kind of things. And speaking of, lots of our colleagues in the other disciplines and other math, science, English, this state or whoever has put together a lot of recipe cards. Day 1, teach this. Day 2, teach this. Day 3. And I'm not saying their job is easier at all. It's not. But there is no that for us. Day 1, teach this. Day 2, teach this. Day 3, do this. And it gets to be overwhelming. So you do have to prioritize, okay, what do I want my students to know and be able to do? And it's this constant zoom in what I want them to know and be able to do today, while also zooming out in light of what I want them to be able to do in 4 months. It's zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. It's exhausting, but you know what? If you're not exhausted, then you're not doing it right, because education is exhausting. Now, do not go turn in your resignation letter tomorrow or Monday. It's okay to be exhausted. And that's just That's just the name of the game. And I guarantee if you're doing it right, you are going to be exhausted, but you're also going to get those small wins along the way and see and watch these students grow and develop and take pride in knowing that you are a part of their journey and a part of their process. So I think that's it. I'm sorry that wasn't 5, Jonathan, but those 4 I just felt really passionate about today.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know what? I would like to just once again thank this whole panel. So if we can give everybody a virtual hand clap. Thank you so much. This panel was amazing. Thank you guys. Now, before we leave today, is there anyone on the call that might have a question? You know, we're going to do a small question and answer. Is there anyone on the call that either you can put the question in the chat, or I don't know if they'll be able to unmute themselves, Pat, but you know, either way, if you have a small question or a question for anybody on the panel, you're more than welcome to do that at this time. And Bethany put something in the chat, put her email in the chat. I think Eugene put something in the chat, and Dee, and there's a lot of folks put their email in the chat. So yeah, everyone can unmute themselves, not at the same time, but you know, if you have a question, you can unmute them. You can unmute yourself. All right. Samantha asked, any advice for someone juggling band and chorus at the same time? Oh, that's a good question.
I'll exactly mentor. I was going to ask, what is your primary instrument, or is it your voice, which is the primary instrument?
So my primary instrument is clarinet. I'm pretty well versed on every instrument though. I've played like lots of secondary instruments. And I did chorus a little bit, but my experience with it is minimal, I would say. So I'm a little nervous about like where I need to start, especially in a program that was really well established, and then all of their director just kind of had to pick up and leave for family purposes. So they feel very abandoned right now.
Is there any way that you can get in contact with the former director?
The chorus one?
Yes.
I have not had anybody tell me that I could, and they've talked about her a lot. So she's not even in the state anymore. She had to move states.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there a trustworthy kid? Like, is there a trustworthy kid that somebody knows? Like, hey, this is the chorus kid.
Yeah, there's a couple of upperclassmen honors chorus kids that I'll have, but unfortunately I have them 4th block, so it doesn't help with beginning chorus.
Sure.
And I've talked to a couple of them, but like I said, when I did talk to them, they're extremely standoffish because they were abandoned. I'm just point blank, they were, and it wasn't the chorus teacher's fault really, but it still happened.
I'd like to say something if I could. Is that okay?
Absolutely, go for it.
Okay, I have taught. I am not a singer, and I don't play piano, but I've been the minister of music at a church before and led the choir there, and I've also taught general music in chorus K7. You can be successful teaching choral students without much keyboard, much in the way of keyboard skills. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but you just have to find other ways to teach it, and you just have to, be able to pick things out, or, use what little keyboard skills you have if that's a concern. The biggest thing that I would say, there's 2 things. One is that everything that we've said still applies. It's do the right thing for kids, have high expectations. You don't have to know all the answers, etc. And the other thing that I would say is let the kids know that you take, I know band is where your heart is, I'm sure, but you have to let the choral kids know that you're just as important, that they are just as important to you, and that the choral program is just as important to you as the band program is. Because if it's not, they'll know that they're stepchildren, and I hate to say that, sorry if anybody's got stepchildren, they'll know that they are not as important to you, and you will see that in their achievement, and you will also see that in their behavior, and your program will suffer and the kids will suffer. So those kids have you've got to communicate that to them right from day one. And you can't help what the other teacher did, and sometimes that's the answer. I can't help what the other teacher did, but I am here and I want to be here and I want to help you and I want to teach you. And they need to know that, and that needs to be a consistent message that you give them, not I'm a band director so I can't help you, let's just sing a song. It can't be like that. And I don't envy you being in that position, but I will tell you that those kids really need you because of the situation that's happened to them. So I would suggest getting a crash course from a choral person that you know and trust. That's what I did when I had to teach general music in the elementary level. When I was an orchestra teacher, I got together with two of my general music friends that I trusted and that were incredibly smart people. And I spent an afternoon with each of them. And one of them was org-based and one of them was Kodály-based. And I learned everything they could teach me in an afternoon, and it saved me. And I was able to do a good job because I got that crash course from them. So I think that if you'll do that, you'll have enough to go on. And if you just take it seriously and let them know you're taking it seriously. That's the main thing. They need to know that they matter to you and that you care and that you'll do everything you can for them.
Samantha, I'd like to add, I would not sing Kumbaya. That is not something you're going to want to do because it will just perpetuate this. But I was just curious, what county are you in? Bernadette and I know some people that we could hook you up with. And then also, it sounds like you might be at a high school. Are you at a high school?
Yeah, I'm at a high school, and I was telling Bernadette that I'm in Wayne.
I texted the same thing that you did.
Oh, where are you?
I'm in Wayne County.
Wayne, okay. So you're doing marching band at the same time.
Kind of. Our numbers for band are 17 kids, and I got hired a little late, so I did not have time for like a band camp or anything. So I think right now we're focusing more on pep band rather than a marching band this year.
So the one thing you have going for you then, if you were just hired, is that you're brand new. And so the kids don't know that you're mainly band. Or your instrument is band, or your background is band. And so, you can capitalize on that. And then also, at least at the beginning, I'm going to do rounds and cannons and sing. And you just say to them, I know that, maybe they've sang, I wouldn't imagine that they've sung very much in the last year. That's another thing that you have going for you, is there was no singing, I don't think, in North Carolina, at least not that much. And so I think that, that's another place. So you just tell them, we're going to start with rounds and cannons. This may be way too easy for you, but I'd rather start way too easy and us build on that than start too hard. So if you'll just bear with me and say, my last choir, blah, 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 blah. And I know we're recording this, but if you haven't had a choir before, it's okay to say in my last choir and tell a little white lie. It would be totally fine. At least that's what I would do. Please don't judge me. But you just say, my last choir loved this, or they thought these were silly, easy songs. And but we're just going to start right here so I know where you are, and then we'll grow together.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Guys, I put a Google form at the end of this webinar, or you can do that now. Fill out that Google form just to give us some feedback on what you thought about this webinar. I think I saw Angela Harrison had a hand up. Angela, do you want to speak? All right, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a comment. And sorry, I don't have my camera on and stuff. I was late and I wasn't in the right place. And anyways, point being, I went to school, and my major was I was flute. And I've never taught band. I've only ever taught chorus. And I'm actually in a new county this year. I was in Forsyth County, and now I'm in Guilford, and I'm teaching chorus again. So I've never held a band job because band teachers don't leave, and that's great. I think it's awesome. And so I'm in the situation, or at least my first year teaching, I was in the situation that the young lady was, and I was just going to say, I put my email in the chat. You can shoot me emails because I have the same perspective that you do, coming from a band background, student teaching with band teachers, having all been about band. And now I was in front of, a whole middle school established chorus, and I don't play the piano. And I get real stupid when there's a whole bunch of keys because it's like flute and it's not going to do anything. So I did a lot of teaching, and I did not touch piano the whole first year. And it just kind of was what it was. So yeah, shoot me an email, and we can Zoom about it or whatever, and I can give you my perspective on the stuff that I did, the people that I learned from, and all that good stuff. And I guarantee you they don't mind talking to you as well, because I don't really have that much of a connection with a lot of people in Guilford County yet, because I'm new here, but I do have all of my teacher friends in Forsyth County, and I'll definitely share that with you. And I'm glad to talk to you about what I did with my kids my first couple of years in middle school teaching as a chorus teacher with a band background. So let me know.
Thank you, Angela. It's good to see you in Guilford.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Christian, I see you got your hand up. You have a question for us, or something you would like to say?
Yeah, I had a comment for let me make my hand go back down. Okay. I had a comment for Samantha Little. She says she teaches in Wayne County. Okay, I'm a product of Wayne County a while back. So whenever I find somebody that's from Wayne County, because there's not a lot of us, I always want to try to link up. What school are you teaching at?
I'm at Eastern Wayne High School.
That's my school. That's where I graduated from, 2008.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you didn't have Bobby Sherrard, right?
No, I had Tyrone Wagner.
Okay, I actually just met him at open house because his daughter is in my homeroom.
Yes, I know. I remember when she was first born. That's crazy.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and that was my sophomore year in high school. So yeah, I would love to get in contact with you, and I can help you in any way. I can say I teach different subjects. I'm a band person, but I also teach orchestra, and that's a whole different language. So what I had to do, I knew band in and out. I knew that. But when I came to the school I'm teaching at now, I had to teach orchestra. So I had to go to an old professor and take lessons all summer and get the nuances of it and practice. That's what I did. I remember we took those classes in undergrad, but my young mind, I was like, man, I'm never teaching this stuff. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. So when it came time, it was either teach chorus and band, or it was going to be orchestra and band. And I told myself I wasn't going to teach chorus at all if I could help it. So I chose that, and I took lessons all summer. So the first time I got there, and you know what? And I was very honest with my orchestra kids when I saw them. I said, listen, guys, I'm not going to fake the funk with you. I've never played a string instrument, and I kind of know what I'm doing. Be patient with me. I took lessons all summer, so I know something, but I can at least teach you how to be a musician, at least, because I still have that much to give you. So I said, we're going to build off what you already know, and I'm going to be learning from y'all. And honestly, which is crazy enough, they said they learned more from me than they learned from actual orchestra teachers. So that's saying something. So I took the time to learn the nuances so I can help them. And with you probably know band in and out, but you just have to take the extra time, find somebody, like they said, you're comfortable with, and learn from them. My orchestra feeder, I'll go to her every now and again, be like, hey, if I see this, how can I tell them to adjust to fix this? And that's what I do. And how do I know what's the appropriate music to give them? So that's what I've done. So that's the advice I could give to you.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I do have some chorus experience. I did it in high school, and then I was in SAI, which we sing all the time. So I have experience with rehearsals and stuff. So it's not like I'm going in blind. I feel like my starting point is questionable right now for me.
Right. Yeah, and I get you. Yeah, and when y'all have your meeting, find somebody again that might can help you maybe in the county or
Yeah.
that way. I'm gonna put my email that you can reach me at as well in the chat. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate. I always try to get back to my old high school any way I can.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. All of these connections. I love it. We have another hand up. Mr. Darian Keck.
Pretty good. I too am a band person majoritively, period, honestly. And I found myself teaching chorus last year as well. And I reached out to a lot of choral people that I know along the way, and people that especially, typically chorus. Um, everything that people have said thus far about that is great. And I mean, you already have the experience there. Want to be like, because the thing for me was like, where do I even start? That was the rough part. And the guy that was the director at my former high school before I graduated, he said, he was like, you don't have to worry about it because they're starting a whole new school year just like you are. So if you start with just the warm-ups and you're teaching them these things, because they don't know the warm-ups that you know. So you got at least 2 weeks of content right there. And along the way, you're developing, technique and teaching them, how to support your voice, and how to use proper phonetics, and so on and so forth. And you can dive into solfege. Now you've killed 9 weeks right there, and y'all started singing 3, 4 songs. You're looking towards planning your next concert. You just got to take it piece by piece and not let it overwhelm you, which is what I was doing. I think that's about that. But good luck to all of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keck. All right. Claire Simpson.
Hi, good afternoon, you guys. I am a first-year teacher in theater and chorus at a high school level, and my experience is in theater. I do play some piano and can read music, and I really appreciated what was said before about challenging them, and recognizing that this year is going to be about challenging them and also myself. I think that probably my tendency out of a place of a little bit of fear and a feeling of inadequacy in terms of teaching a chorus, challenging them with more classical pieces. And so I just wondered if the group had any resources that they could recommend that I explore that might kind of meet that need or that desire to challenge them with more classical pieces.
Can I just jump in just for a second, Claire, and just say, first of all, Jonathan, this may be something we need to think about at a leadership level for conferences. There's a lot of people, a lot of colleagues that are teaching like more than just one subject area. And I know, Claire, you're maybe a member of NCTC and those kinds of things, but being a member of NCMEA and going that route, and we might want to, I'm going to pass this on to Roman, our chair as well, but especially I'm teaching 2 things, band and choir, or choir and theater and choir. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic and the low numbers, I just don't see this going away for a while. I plan for the worst and hope for the best. But I guess, Claire, the first thing I would have to say to you is, I wouldn't, if I were you, you do what you would like. Classical repertoire, I wouldn't even go there. I wouldn't even think about a lot of the classical repertoire, and Bernadette may want to jump in. A lot of the classical repertoire is going to be an SATB format with just things that might be too much and for the beginning of the year and maybe later, but also my experience is that you, in order to hook classical repertoire, you really have to hook them first. And I've never been super successful hooking students first with classical repertoire. Bernadette, I don't know if you have, but I haven't. So you know, like I said earlier, just going with that Unit 0 and some Yonder Come Day and some just don't do kumbaya, but maybe some bonsai aba or some sia hamba, and these titles might sound really unfamiliar, but some partner songs, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Just email me, or maybe Bernadette has some stuff we can send you, because it's going to be, for me, the first week is literally going to be, okay, I'm going to sing you something. I want you to sing it back to me. And actually my freshman class, I'm going to sing you something. I would like for you to hum it back to me, because the worst feeling is when I'm going to sing something to you and you sing it back and then they don't. So starting with like, I'll sing something and you hum it back to me. That's a good place to start. And maybe you just be one of the lucky ones that has enough tenors to actually have a tenor section and basses, and then you can think about classical repertoire. But I know that's what we're taught and what we're supposed to do, but that's not what no.
I would go maybe even the South African route, you know, something like what Bethany said, like Ukatula. Kenny Potter from Wingate Universities would be a huge resource, and he put out, Bethany, what's the name of the 2-volume South African, you know, that he did? Do you remember the name of it?
I think it's just South Africans.
Yeah, there's two volumes of it. They're great, and they're super accessible, and the kids start singing them and they think they sound amazing. So take them out to the hall, let other kids hear them, like, what's that going on? Only if they sound good, you know. But I would not go classical at the beginning at all. Go South African.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions?
I wanted to say quickly that I know in orchestra, sometimes we can select classical pieces that are familiar. They're used in commercials or used in, you know, whatever, that the students might be more familiar with, and that gives you a jumping off point to do more classical music, because then you can relate it back, and that's kind of your gateway drug into classical music, is something that they're familiar with. So while I couldn't tell you any pieces from the choral repertoire, that might be something to think about and look at, because if it's something that they're hearing somewhere else, it's a part of a, you know, a popular music piece, or if it's used in a you know, commercial they're familiar with or something like that, I don't think you'll have a hard time getting to sing it.
Thank you. And Pat mentioned we will have the conference session schedule available next week. Take a look at what we are offering and try to attend if you can. It will also be a great networking opportunity. And she just put the link for conference in the chat as well. And I'm pretty sure you can find a lot of the things that you're looking for as well. I also put in the chat the membership program that we offer at NCMEA. If you would please, that's a really great place to start, as well as this panel. This panel sent, you know, everybody in here put their emails in the chat. So when you get an opportunity to do that, just snatch that from the chat if you would like. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right. Well, on behalf of Carol Earnhardt, President of NCMEA, and the Board of Directors, I would like to sincerely thank all of you for spending this time on a Saturday morning, getting us ready, and to present help. School starts next week. So if you would please make sure that you fill out that Google form that I put in the chat. And if you have any other questions, you can hang around. But for the most part, I think we are done, Pat, so we can stop the recording.
Thank you, Jonathan.